Of all the things that the Bible calls us, do you know what the Bible refers to us as? The Bible refers to us as the bride of Christ. And you know what, guys? You are beautiful and you got pipes. I mean, you guys can sing. I love listening to you guys sing. I think sometimes the bride of Christ kind of gets a bad name. She kind of gets knocked around a bit. Have you guys ever gone to a wedding and as the bride's coming down the aisle, they hold up like a 6.5? And it's like, no, nobody does that. I mean, of course not. And you know what? Do you know what I love is when we worship, it's all about Jesus. It's about looking at the groom. We don't have to look at the bride anymore. You guys have proven she is beautiful and amazing. But look at the groom, because Jesus knows everything about you and he sees who you're turning into. And that's a beautiful thing, guys. I mean, how many of you guys wear glasses or contacts? Yeah? Okay, I'm in that crowd. There's actually a picture. This is the first day I got glasses. I just thought it was a selfie moment. Tyler happened to be there with me. But my vision isn't really that bad. I'm just kind of farsighted in one eye. But it enhances my vision. And I love that we can do that. Jesus loved giving sight to blind people. And I love that in the day and age with the technology we have, we can sort of do that as well. But, sometimes glasses aren't enough. Sometimes you got to have surgeries. And there's this one guy that I know of who he woke up and he couldn't see out of one of his eyes one morning. And now he is a diplomat, and he was he still went through 6 other countries before he finally went to the eye doctor. I would not recommend that. But it's funny because when he went to the doctor said, "I'm sorry, you're going to have some surgeries." And I think the last I checked, he was up to 7 surgeries. And but every time he goes to the doctor, he says, "How much more am I going to be able to see and when?" And every doctor, every time, always tells him the same thing: you're going to see more. And you know what? That's going to happen in your family. That's going to happen in this church and in your faith. You're going to see more. The more humble that you are, the more you see of Jesus. The more generous you are, the more you see of Jesus. I don't know why it works that way. It just does. I put my phone number on Facebook. Maybe you guys have seen it. Now, some of you guys might think I'm crazy. Why in the world would you put your phone number up on Facebook? I think I'm a tad bit crazy myself for doing this. But when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about how Jesus was generous with his time. And you guys remember the lady with the issue of blood who came to Jesus and tugged on his shirt, and he's like, who is that? Or when he's walking down the road and he sees a short guy up in a tree and he's like, "Hey, Zacchaeus, come down. I'm eating at your house today." And he just made time for people, and he just made time for everybody. And I don't know about you guys, family, but I realized that I hadn't been generous with my time. So I put my number up on Facebook. And now there's at least 827 Facebook friends that have my phone number. And when I do this, I don't want to just do this half-heartedly. So my goal is no one goes to voicemail. Every time I answer the phone, I just want to be there for the people that I claim to love. And that's all people want, is they want to know that we practice what we preach. And today, if you haven't guessed, we're going to be speaking on generosity. Don't worry, I'm not going to try to make your wallets lighter, if that was your worry. But, family, if you give money, you're going to see more. If you give your time, you're going to see more. And other people are going to see more too, because they met you. And try it for this week. Nobody goes to voicemail. Living a life following Jesus means a life of constant interruptions. And just do it. And if this is going to wreck your whole life, I'm not saying you have to change your ringtone to a rooster crowing, and after the 3rd ring, you've denied Christ. I'm not saying that. But just try it, It'll probably blow your mind. Have any of you guys flown before? Anybody flown? Oh, okay. We've got several flyers in here. Probably got your frequent flyer miles, yeah? But, you generally make sure you don't have anything dangerous in your bag. For anybody who doesn't know about this, you put it on the conveyor belt, and they bring you in line, and they're like, "Okay, ticket, identification." And, you walk through, and they metal detector. And you know what? My cousin got married in Texas last year. And so we flew there, and we went to the wedding, and we had a great time. And now I have to mention this. The airports have these things that are pretty much strip searches without taking your clothes off, but it is the creepiest thing ever. There's a picture of it, I believe. Yeah, there we go, right there. That thing is creepy as all get out because I'm a personal person, and I don't want nobody looking at any of that. No way, no how. And you know what else I hate? I also hate pat-downs. But the day we were supposed to fly home, are we all good, Joe? Can you guys still hear me? Okay, I heard the mic go out for a second. But, you know, the day that we were supposed to fly home, I gave my ticket to the guy at the counter. There's a picture, you know, like you give the guy the ticket at the counter, and he said, identification. I pull out my wallet, and I look in, and my license is gone. I have no idea where it's at. And I got this line of people behind me, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? You know, my parents have already gone through. They're out there waiting for me. I'm the only one. I was the one lagging behind. And, oh, man, I was so scared. But the guy looked at me, and he goes, we just need something to prove that you are who you say you are. And luckily for me, I was able to find some stuff he was good with, and we went on. But unfortunately, I had to go through the scanner and a pat-down, and then we ended up missing our flight and having to stay in Atlanta. So then the next morning, I had to do that all over again in Atlanta. But the reason I tell you guys this is that I had to prove who I was. And how do we do that? How do we prove in our life who we are? And the way we prove to the world who we are is by how generous we are. There's a beautiful verse in Galatians 5, and it says this. The only thing that counts is faith expressing itself in love. What is important is faith expressing itself in love. And you can have all the Bible verses memorized that you want, but just go express love. Say hello to somebody. Just get to know them. Get to know their name. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've spent my entire life avoiding the people that Jesus spent his entire life pursuing. And you know why? I think it's because I didn't want to get any on me. But that's not the message of the gospel. The gospel says to get it on you, get it all over you. You know, ministry's messy. If it's not for you, it's a hobby. And, family, if we could just be generous when people screw up. Have you guys ever been through the day and like you've got like a button-up shirt on and you look down and it's one button off and you're like, rats, you know, like, have you ever been like that? Am I the only one? All right, there's some others. Okay, good. I'm glad to know I'm not alone on this. But, you know, I think a lot of the people that have taught me the most about my faith were just a button off in theirs. You know, I mean, like, they would say something and I go, I don't know if it quite works that way. I mean, I'm sure you guys have dealt with somebody like that, right? You're just like, I don't know. But there's something beautiful just about engaging people and being generous enough to know their names, you know? And last month we celebrated Easter. And if you guys remember, Mary goes to the tomb and she sees Jesus, but she didn't recognize him and she thought he was the gardener. And Jesus didn't like berate her or like have a Bible study with her. He just said her name, Mary. I mean, that's the shortest sermon ever. I think next time Dad asks me to preach, I'm going to be like, Andy, mic drop. You know, like, but, you know, it's okay to laugh. You know, I'm going to laugh at myself. Feel free to laugh yourself. Okay, we don't have to send soldiers to guard baby Jesus. Jesus is out of the crib. Read Revelation. I mean, he's on it. And when people are just a button-off family, just be generous in the way that you love. Be generous in your assumptions about people. That's Philippians 2, to consider others more worthy than yourself. And, you know, what I do when somebody does something kind of janky is I just assume that they must be smarter than me. I assume they must love Jesus more than me. And then I try to find some, an uncreepy reason why they must believe that way. Because, you know, it's really easy to go, find a creepy reason why somebody believes something. It's like there was a pastor I heard of. He was preaching at his church, and there's one seat open in the very front, and there's this lady who was late. And so she was coming in, and as she was coming down the aisle, he saw that she had a 7-foot boa on her neck. Now, I'm not talking about a feathered 1950s boa. I mean like a boa constrictor on her neck. And he was like, ah! It was like, all right, you know what? She must be smarter than me, prior to the contrary. She must love Jesus more than me. And he's like, I got to come up with a non-creepy reason why this is happening. And he said, after going through the entire service, he's like, the only thing I could think of was, she just doesn't know. He goes, she must have been walking to church and a snake just crawled up on her shoulder. She doesn't know. He's like, I don't know. I'm not going to tell her, Oh, but I told you we were going to have some fun. Anybody like candy? Oh, okay. So only half of you guys like candy. I think everybody in this room likes candy. Would anybody like some candy? Yeah? Okay, I'm gonna be a little violent with this. Here we go. Heads up. I want to see how far I can get this. Woo! I told you this is going to be a fun interactive. Oh, you think I can make it that far? Ugh. Nope, can't make it that far. Here we go. Woo! All right. Well, if you guys want some more candy, I'll have it sitting in the back afterwards. But you know what? Here's my question, Would you guys wanted candy. Would you want candy if it was shot at you? That would be a little bit different, right? There's a difference between giving candy to people and shooting candy at people. There's also a big difference between loving on people and shooting Jesus at them. And if we're supposed to be the kind of people that Jesus wants us to be, we can't shoot Jesus at people. We just got to love on him. He'll figure it out. Just let him. There's something beautiful that happens because it won't be about us anymore. It'll be about him and others. And I don't know about you, family, but I would never call myself rich, at least not any of these guys. You guys recognize any of these folks? We got our president. We got one of our old presidents. We've got the creator of the iPhone, and we've got the creator of Facebook up there. All of those guys, I don't know about you, but I'd say are pretty rich, yeah? But I wouldn't consider myself rich like these guys. But then I look at my world compared to the rest of the world, and I see I have electricity, and I have heat and air and clean water, a house, a car, basic comforts. And I realize that I'm really well off. So when I look at the Bible and I see those that were rich and well off, they were comfortable. And you know what the thing is about being comfortable? People who are comfortable don't need Jesus. And that's my problem, is I don't know about you, but I live in such a free country with so many opportunities. I become comfortable and complacent. So I've decided to try to spend my life and my time trying to become less comfortable. And that's what I love about the discussion of generosity, is that it's not about being comfortable, it's about being uncomfortable. And have any of you guys gone to a third world country? Anybody been that lucky? Yeah, a couple? Okay. Well, I was lucky enough that we took a missions trip to Honduras, and we actually have missionaries there, if you guys don't know. And the Jacksons. And I just remember it's a whole different place. We circled around this huge valley, and then we landed on this tiny airstrip. That's actually the picture of the airstrip. They just have one short strip on the thing. And that in and of itself was scary. But then when I left the airport, the first thing I saw was this box truck barreling down the road with 2 armed guards on the back side of it. And I'm thinking, Toto, we are not in Kansas anymore. Oh, and all the houses, they had bars on them so people didn't break in. And now, luckily enough for us, we were blessed enough to be able to stay in this gated community. But, I mean, it felt like a really uncomfortable spot, a really uncomfortable place. And I think we could all call that uncomfortable. And in this adventure towards generosity, we don't need to worry about what we're going to do when we get there. We just need to get there. Whatever it takes to get us uncomfortable. I mean, because people who are comfortable have opinions, and people who have Christ, or people who long for Christ, just have Jesus. Now, I'm not saying that you should go to a place that would draw you to sin or draw you away from Jesus, because you know your limitations. But just be desperate for him. Seek him and seek others. I don't know if you know this, but our church has this clothing share where we give away clothes to people in our community and also in the church that may have needs. And we've even gone to food kitchens to help feed the homeless. We've gone down to homeless shelters. We even go to this thing called the Gobbler Gathering. I've got a picture here. This isn't us because I couldn't find my picture. That I knew I have one somewhere, but that's the Gobbler Gathering. So we'll give out these meals to people during Thanksgiving so that they can have a meal, because they're not gonna otherwise. And, I say all these things not to brag on us or anybody who participated, but to let you know that this is what it looks like to be Jesus. And anybody who's helped do these things, I want to thank you. You're amazing. You're awesome. And you're really showing what it looks like to be Jesus. But there's something about serving people. Continue to grow in love. Express your faith in love. Find a new creative ways to give extravagant love. Not just leftover love, but extravagant love. There's a beautiful verse in the Song of Solomon. No, I'm not going to get sensual, but it is the Song of Solomon. And it's chapter 2, verse 16a. My beloved is mine, and I am his. Sometimes I think that we make loving God a lot more complicated than God made loving God. He just wants you to be his and he to be yours. You're a thing, you're an item, But is there more to that? Of course there is, but don't worry about it. He's got it. Just go be his. Let him be yours. See more and more of Christ as you give yourself away. Have any of you guys seen the Oprah Winfrey Show? That's probably a little dated now. How about Ellen DeGeneres? Anybody seen the Ellen DeGeneres Show? Yeah, okay. Well, there's Ellen. Ellen's given a lot of stuff away. Oprah's given a lot of stuff away. And have any of you guys ever been on one of those shows? Literally. So much stuff that they give away. Extravagant things. And you know what? What if we gave away extravagant love? That's what generosity is all about. I'm not saying you have to empty your bank account, but maybe it's about giving somebody that creeps you out the best. Loving some people is easy. Look at you, family. You guys are beautiful. You're easy to love. But go find somebody who creeps you out and love them, And if you want to know where we're at, that's the measure. Matthew 25. When we meet Jesus, all he wants to talk about was this. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. That's it. Hungry people, thirsty people, strange people, like we're talking about. Sick people, naked people, and people in jail. Sorry, my mind's going, whoo, yeah. But yeah, that's all he wants to talk about. What I want us to do is I want us to be able to have something to talk to Jesus about. I want us to be able to talk to him about the time we helped at the Gobbler Gathering and we were able to give out food to homeless people. I want us to be able to talk to Jesus about the time that we got involved in a ministry at church and we just got to love and serve with people. Wouldn't it be really, really awkward to get to heaven and have absolutely nothing to talk to Jesus about? Forever? That would be pretty awkward. So just figure some stuff out, What's your favorite burger place? Anybody got a favorite burger place? Go ahead, just shout it out. McDonald's, Wendy's, Red Robin, yum. What if we got burgers and we just handed them out to people that are on the street, people that are hungry? What if we grab some water bottles and we go out to the park and we find people that are thirsty and we just give people something to drink? I don't know where we're going to find naked people in Evansville. I know there was this one pastor, he was talking about clothing naked people. He lives in California. He said there's a nude beach. He said, I just throw socks over the cliff. He's like, oh man. But you know what? Bring your creativity. And you're going to have fun, but it's not just about that. you're going to be doing it because you're so trigger locked on the idea that I want to see more of Jesus in me. And the more extravagant you are with your love, generous with your time, generous with your assumptions, generous with your money, you'll see more of Jesus. And you know it's true. There's a famous church in Jerusalem called the Church of All Nations. And it's located where they believe the Garden of Gethsemane was, where Jesus went to pray before he was crucified. And there's a sign in front of the church. It's amazing. It says, "No explanations inside the church." We got a picture of that? Should be the next one, I believe. No explanations inside the church. Now, I think that's for the tour guides, but can that sign preach? I mean, seriously, no explanations inside the church. I mean, it's just, I think we just don't need to explain it. We don't have to. Every act of selfless love is a declaration of faith. It's like, this is what I really believe is true. And it reminds me of James 1:22. Do you remember James that says, don't just listen to the word, but do it? It's really just that simple. I mean, that's it. It's not complicated. You're his, he's yours. Now go do stuff. And you're going to see more when you do. And you don't have to have a Bible study. Just go love everybody. That's it. And start with the people that creep you out. Mostly just be with people. You just got to be with people to love them. And a lot of people don't want to be with people. I've known some people that they don't like to be around anybody. And I'm like, you're going to hate heaven because you're going to be around everybody forever, But, oh, man. Does my family like Christmas carols? Anybody in here like Christmas carols? Oh, okay. We got some Christmas lovers in here. We're going to sing that. No, I'm just kidding. No, but you know what? Sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I just get in the mood and I just have to listen to a Christmas song. Or sometimes that even works with the story of Christmas, is that, I just get in the mood and we just have to read the story of Christmas. And we're going to read a verse from that story. But I lost my place. There we go. Okay. Yep. Matthew 1:23, there it is. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and you will call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. And of course, 2 verses later, and so they named him Jesus. Great job, Mary and Joe, you had one job. But Emmanuel means God with us. That was the first act of love that Jesus showed us on this earth, was to be with us. So start loving others. It's just us with each other, You want to be generous? Be with people. Don't just identify with them. Be with them. And it's crazy what'll happen. Do you know how long it takes to get your skydiving lessons? Anybody gone skydiving? Anybody? Anybody want to go skydiving? All right, there we go. All right. Do you know how long it takes? Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody told me this. But it only takes 30 seconds of following the instructor to get your license. That's it. That's all. Do you know any test in the world that takes 30 seconds? I mean, it takes years to get a degree. But to fall to your death with a parachute, 30 seconds. But what if we, instead of agreeing with the whole gospel, we just obey it when Christ says, when he talks about generosity, and to give yourself away for the next 30 seconds. I can't tell you that I'm going to follow Jesus for the whole rest of my life, because I know there are moments I'm going to screw up and I'm going to mess up because I'm me. But I'm just trying to follow Jesus for the next 30 seconds. And when somebody's going to get up in my face and get my blood boiling, I just think, okay, can I love this person for the next 30 seconds? And when those 30 seconds are over, can I love this person for the next 30 seconds? And if we could just tough it out, oh, man, if we could just be generous and show love to those people. How many of my family like pools? Anybody like pools? Yeah? All right. I love going swimming. And when I was younger, my family had this, my grandparents had this above-ground pool. And I don't know if you guys have ever been in an above-ground pool, but when you're in it, there's this natural, current that runs in a circle because of the pump. And so you almost kind of feel like you're in a whirlpool. But when I was really, really young, I still hadn't learned how to swim. I went over to my grandparents' house, and my parents couldn't find me anywhere. And they started freaking out, and they looked everywhere, and finally they came outside, and I was on the side of the pool, clung to the side for dear life. And now, don't worry, I didn't drown, if you guys were wondering. I'm here today. But, that's the thing, too. There's this hotel we stayed at. They've got a pool, too. We used to do these family reunions in Nashville every year. And we were in this pool. This is actually the pool. I thought it was awesome. I was able to find the picture. But we were at the pool, and we're swimming. And I didn't notice this, but there's this little girl, not a part of our family, but she was drowning in the pool. And I totally didn't see it. But my cousin did, and he jumped right into that pool and saved her. And he ruined his wallet, his phone, everything. Like, he didn't take the time to, take everything out. He jumped in after her. And I realized this, that if it wasn't for somebody saving her, if it wasn't for my cousin paying attention, she would have drowned. Just like if nobody had rescued me, I would have drowned. And more than that, not just somebody rescuing you, but somebody actively seeking you out. If my parents hadn't been looking for me, I definitely would have drowned. Now, if you want to love people, we have to jump in the water. And instead of just watching or giving them advice, jump in. And don't just put your toes in. Do a full cannonball. You know how to do it. Jump up and grab your knees. But back several years ago, I worked at Holiday World. And if you don't know that, I'll just say that if you hugged a costume character or a furry friend, you probably hugged me. Now, it was a great job, and I loved it. It was fantastic. But I took a shuttle bus up every day, and I got on the bus. And this particular day, there was just this ominous mood, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And finally, before the bus driver took off, she had told us that the night prior that our president and CEO, Will Cook, had passed away. He was swimming in his pool, and he had a cardiac arrest, and he drowned. Now, I don't know if you guys understand, but for me, that's like working at Disney the day Walt Disney died. There's a weight to that. And something that I realized was, we can't save anybody. We can't decide when someone lives or dies. We can't even save ourselves. And what we need is a Savior. What we need is somebody that's going to jump out of heaven to be with us. And that's what God did. Emmanuel, God with us. He literally did. He jumped out of heaven to save us. And what's our job? Just try. I'd rather fail trying than fail watching. So try a couple of things. Are you going to fail? Of course you are. You're you. I'm me, But fail trying. There's something crazy about that because somebody along the way saw something different in you. Maybe it was my dad, Pastor John. Somebody saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself, and you started to believe it. It's not a big prophetic thing. It's just they saw who you were becoming. And you're becoming love. Isn't that crazy? You might ask, how do you turn into love? And I would reply, I don't know. I'm still turning, But one of the things I try to do is I just try to see people for who they're becoming. When I was in youth group as a teen, my pastor's name was James Bonney. I loved this guy. He was amazing. He had great style in both the way that he did things and the way that he preached and very charismatic. I loved James. It was so much fun to be in that youth group. But unfortunately, one day came where James was called back to Canada by God to start a church. And he was from Canada originally. But all this time I hung out with him, he saw something in me more than just some snotty little kid. You got a picture of me up there? Is there one on there? Yeah, that's me in youth group back in the day. But he saw more than just some snotty little kid with energy. He saw who I was going to become. And on the last day that he was here, he gave me his Bible, which, as you can see, he had a sense of humor. It's a King James Bible. He scratched out the word king, and so it just says James Bible. But he gave me his Bible, and he says something to the effect of this. Luke, you're going to do great things. I see who you're becoming, and you got this. And you know what? I've been active in the ministry ever since. What if we do this? What if we were more generous in the way that we see people? We're not just generous in our assumption about people, but we're not just generous in our finances, and we're not just generous with our time, but we're generous in the way that we see people. We see people for who they're becoming as children of God that are learning different things about following Jesus than you are right now. And does that mean anything goes? No, not at all. But does that mean that we're the sheriff? No, not that either. We're just brothers and sisters in Christ, just loving them. That's the beautiful thing about truth. It doesn't need to be defended. Jesus doesn't need a lawyer, and he doesn't need you to defend him. He just needs humble people that are going to be generous with their time, their assumptions, and their love. And if we could just get that down, I think we'd be a lot better for it. You know, family, we're going to see more. Even if you're blind to some of it, you'll see more. And you know the crazy place you'll start is across the street. Wasn't it a lawyer that asked Jesus, he tried to trick him, and he said, all right, well, out of all the 613 laws and all the prophecies, which one's the greatest? And what was Jesus' reply? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, that's where our mission statement as a church comes from, right? There's a picture, it should have it on there, right? Yeah, love God, love others, make a difference. Yeah. Oh, yep, that'll work. But yeah, love God, love others, and make a difference. Yeah, that was the one I was looking for. But man, I've got a neighbor. Any of you guys got a neighbor? I mean, why don't we just start there? Go across the street. Get to know the people that live right next door to you. Love on them. I mean, this concept was made clear to me by a person that I told you I follow, the guy with the blind issue. His name's Bob. Do we got a picture of Bob? Yeah, there's Bob. I love Bob. Bob's awesome. And, he went across the street to his neighbor, and her name is Carol. And he found out that she was a widow, and they started having a conversation, and he got her phone number and would occasionally just go on and check over on her, or he'd call her to check up on her, and he was just there for her, you know? And they have this parade that they make these floats, and every year they pick a queen for the float. And one year Carol got to be the queen, and even when she went into the grocery store, people would like bow and call her Your Majesty. I mean, wasn't that sweet? Isn't that awesome? Oh, man. But one day Bob called to check on Carol, and she told him that she'd just gotten back from the doctor's office, and she'd been diagnosed with cancer. And he said, I'm not calling you again. So he went down to Radio Shack, and he bought a couple of radios, and he set one up in his house and one in her house so they could always have instant communication. And you know what? Carol really wasn't scared anymore because she had somebody walking with her through it. And, generous people give away their lives in ways that just make the people around them not afraid anymore. And it's crazy. It spreads like a cult. Half of you guys are afraid that you're going to keep your job, and the other half of you are afraid you're going to lose it. But you know what? Jesus doesn't want us to be afraid anymore. He just wants you to be living like him. And one day Bob took Carol to the doctor's appointment, and the doctor says, I'm sorry, Carol. There's nothing more we can do. You're going to die. And after Bob and Carol had a long cry on the bed, he asked, Carol, if there's one thing you could do before you die, what would it be? And, like a bucket list. And she said, do you know what, Bob? I've always wanted to go TPing. And so you know what they did? They went TPing. And it's just awesome. Now, something I didn't tell you about Bob. Bob is a diplomat, so Bob has diplomatic immunity. So it's funny because when the cops pulled up, they're like, this is a misdemeanor, right? And he's like, well, I have diplomatic immunity, and she's going to be dead in a week, so what are you going to do, So, oh, man. But you know what? It'll be a childlike faith that makes you more generous. Do you remember Matthew 18:2? Jesus was with a couple of his buddies, and they're arguing about who gets the big chair next to Jesus, And And so he took this kid, and I bet he took a knee. It doesn't say he took a knee, but I bet he took a knee and put the kid on his knee. And he says this, truly I say unto you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. A childlike faith. Not childish. I think we've got that down. But childlike. Oh, family, if you want to be more generous, be more childlike. I mean, when you were a little kid, you didn't worry about anything. You let your father take care of it. You let your parent take care of it. And how much more does our heavenly Father want to take care of us than our earthly father? I mean, he's got this. You don't have to worry about anything. Just imagine how beautiful it would be to love people extravagantly, knowing you don't have to worry about anything because God's got it under control. You know, they had a New Year's Eve party in Bob's neighborhood, and Carol was too weak to make it to the door. So they picked her up, and they brought her to the front window of her house. And what she didn't know was they'd changed the route of the parade, and all 800 people, there's a picture of the parade, I believe. Yeah, there you go. All 800 people went right through her front yard, and Carol sat in her chair, blowing kisses to all of her friends goodbye, and then she went to be with Jesus. Family, love your neighbor. Love them like they were your own family. A lot of us want to do that. We get this big, beautiful view of our faith, but we're just waiting for everything to be right. We just think, is now the time? And Jesus never asked any of us to play it safe. You want to be more generous with your life? It's time to quit playing it safe. I think a lot of us want to be more generous, but we're just waiting for a few more things to line up, to get that green light. But you know what? Your faith is the only green light that you need. The only thing that matters is faith expressing itself in love. Have you guys ever been to Disney World, Disneyland, anything like that? I can tell you, I never get tired of going to such a fun, magical place. And it's okay to be goofy. I still want to go to Disney and you guys seen Pirates of the Caribbean, like Jack Sparrow. I want to have a Jack Sparrow off with a character, but I still haven't. But I will one day. But my favorite thing at Disney is the castle. You guys love that castle. It's just awesome. Now, when they were building Disneyland, you may not know this, but Walt Disney himself showed up unannounced, and they hadn't finished putting the roof on the castle yet. So they hurried up, and they put the roof on, and you know what they did? They put it on backwards. They put it on backwards. And you know what Walt Disney said? He said, I like it better that way. And that's what generous people do. They're kind with their words. They're generous with their words. Do you know what Jesus talked to his friends about? He said, let's go build a kingdom. And there was a big difference between building a castle and building a kingdom, because castles have moats to keep creepy people out, and kingdoms have bridges to let everybody in. Castles have dungeons for people who screwed up, and kingdoms have grace. You know what else castles have? Castles have trolls. Now, I bet some of you guys have seen some trolls in your life, right? Yeah, all right. But the thing is about, if you want to know where you're at in your faith, how are you treating the trolls in your life? How are you treating those that creep you out the most? How generous are you being with people? Not the nicest person, but the person that creeps you out. That's where Jesus wants you to get to. Jesus just wants us there. Not by shooting at us, but loving on us. And there's a beautiful tradition they have at Disneyland. And they'll do this. They take people who have been part of building the kingdom, and they make a window for them. I think we've got a picture of one of those windows right here. Oriental Tattooing by Professor Harper Goff, banjo lessons. And so, I assume that maybe he loved playing the banjo, but he was one of those that helped build the kingdom of Disneyland. And so it's a beautiful tradition. And you know what? Here's my question for you, family. What will your window say? I know what I want mine to say. I want mine to say with. He was with people. He was with people when they were hungry and they were thirsty and they were sick and naked and in jail. He was just with. You're building a kingdom. What do you want your window to say? Do that. Do you remember that verse from earlier, Song of Solomon 2:16? My beloved is mine, and I am his. Family, that's as simple as it gets. We need to just get back to how simple our faith is. Just make him yours and make you his more and more. You want to see more? Give more. You want to love more? Love more. And not lovely people, creepy people. Have any of you guys seen sea otters on TV or at the zoo? You know the thing about sea otters is they hold hands. And do you know why they do that? Anybody? They do it so no one drifts away. And I think that that's us as the church, you know? I'm talking to you guys as the bride of Christ. Not only can you sing well, you know how to love well. And if we love people generously, if we assume generously their intentions and their motives, if we are generous in seeing people for who they're turning into, people won't drift away. Can we do this? As we close, I would ask that we all bow our heads and close our eyes.